Welcome to video podcast 48, I think it is. Damn, I can't remember. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 48. Pretty sure. Wait. Excuse me for 1 second. I'm having a senior moment. I'm having an old age moment. And I can't remember. I don't know if this is 48 or 49. Let me go to my Patreon page. I'll be able to know. I believe it's 48, but I gotta double check real quick. Okay, I was right. Yep, I was right. Hey man, like I said, I'm getting older. I'm 54 years old, man. I'm gonna have to start doing crossword puzzles like my mother and father did in their later years to keep their minds sharp. Okay, I got some, I don't know if I want to call it bad news because I've told you this, guys, you listeners and viewers, this before, but in the last few days, I got both some public feedback and probably an equal, if not greater amount of private feedback from some listeners and viewers. And their main criticism was, Alan, with all due respect, you need to stop spending so much time on your videos addressing your haters, your harsh critics, and a variety of other YouTube personalities, YouTube hosts, and YouTube commenters, and just concentrate on sharing your knowledge, wisdom, insight, and advice with your male fans and viewers. Well, what did I tell you a few weeks back? I can't remember how many weeks back, but what did I tell you? Particularly since I really got my Patreon page active. Because the first couple of months I wasn't really active. I think I signed up for my Patreon page in mid-April. And for the latter half of April and most of May, April and May, truthfully, I didn't really pay attention to it. I didn't even used to update my Patreon page on a regular basis. I didn't start updating my Patreon page until sometime between early to mid-June of this year. But anyway, what did I tell you? Starting with a few weeks ago, I told you it was going to be my format. I said, when it comes to videos that are free for the general public to watch, it's always going to be representative of me ranting, me rambling, me admonishing, and or me discussing feedback from listeners, or a subcategory of that would be addressing my haters and critics. So if you want videos from me that are purely advice-driven videos, purely advice, self-help driven videos, with no ranting, no rambling, no admonishing, no me responding and offering rebuttals to haters and critics and other YouTube personality hosts, then you know what you got to do. You got to become a patreon.com subscriber, man, and the link is in the description section below. That's what you got to do. And my Patreon subscribers, they know what's up. Matter of fact, of the people who gave me that type of feedback over the last few days, I want to say none of them were Patreon subscribers. It might have been, at most, it might have been one, but I don't even think there was one. I don't have Patreon subscribers since I've, utilized my new format who criticized me. Now, before I did utilize my format, some of my Patreon subscribers would criticize me, but not anymore. Because they know I upload, in the last, say 3, 4 weeks, I've uploaded quite a few videos that are what I call Patreon exclusive videos, that you would never see for free here on YouTube. You only see if you're a Patreon subscriber. Those are my purely advice-driven videos. So if you're a male listener viewer, or to a lesser extent a female listener viewer, and you have issues with me doing my classic ranting, rambling, admonishing, and or discussing feedback from listeners and addressing haters and critics and other YouTube personalities, then you need to become a Patreon.com subscriber. Plain and simple. That's what you either a $5 subscriber, a $10 subscriber, and also have $20 and $50 tiers too. But if you just become a $10 subscriber, you'll be good to go. But so for the millionth time, if you're watching this video right now for free, which you are, then that means that 99.9% chance that this video is going to contain some degree of me ranting, me rambling, me admonishing, and me discussing feedback from listeners and or addressing haters, critics, and other YouTube podcast hosts. Speaking of other YouTube podcast hosts, I posted an article in the comment section below. My newest article on the Negro Manosphere, referencing, you guessed it, the infamous old man. I wrote, he always says that I don't mention him by his full name. And I'm still not on here on my YouTube channel. But in this Negro Manosphere article, his full name is in the headline, in the title of the article. So for those of you who were not familiar with the old man's full name, you'll see it right in the title. And I've already received quite a bit of feedback about that article. And I would say probably 95% of it has been positive. My one lighthearted criticism, a lot of people felt like it was too long. And I knew that criticism was coming, because it might be my longest, or at minimum my second longest article I've ever written on the Negro Manosphere. Now, speaking of the Negro Manosphere, one question I get from a lot of my non-black male clients, they'll say, Alan, are the articles you write on the Negro Manosphere just for your black male clients? Or do you have content that's of universal interest to those who are not black? Oh yeah, just about all of my articles actually have some degree of universal interest to them. I think there's been maybe 2 or 3 articles that specifically targeted just black men and black women. Yeah, I think at most no more than 3. I've written 38 articles for the Negro Manosphere, and I want to say no more than 3 of them specifically had to do with just black male, black female issues. 95% of my articles, they deal with, they would apply to anybody, whether you're white, black, Asian, Hispanic, Middle Eastern, whatever. So no, my articles, even though the name of the website is the Negro Manosphere, now there's a lot of writers on that site though that do have quite a bit of articles that only apply to black people, black men, black women. So yeah, there are most of the other writers, their content is specifically geared towards the black community. But my articles, no. My articles are pretty much universal. And if you look at my books, that's how my books are. And see, I have to reference the old man again. This is why it kind of irritates me when he tries to draw me into these discussions and debates that specifically have to do with black men interacting with black women, because that's never been my focus. That's never been my focus. Since I became a book author and since I became a dating coach, I've never been a dating coach who concentrates my attention specifically on black male versus black female issues. Never. Never, ever, 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 ever. If you listen to my Blog Talk Radio show in the 9 years I was on Blog Talk Radio, I had only maybe a handful of shows that dealt with subject matter that was exclusively related to black men and black women. But most of my content of my Blog Talk Radio shows, it had to do with dating and relationships in general. In general. Meaning regardless of whether you were a black man, black woman, white man, white woman, Hispanic man, Hispanic woman, and Middle Eastern man, Middle Eastern woman, so on and so on and so on. That's how I've always been. I cover dating relationships in a universal manner. I like to write about stuff that men of all races and ethnicities can relate to. I don't like to write articles or books where only black men and black women can relate to it. I don't like doing it. I mean, I have respect for other black male authors and black female authors and black male dating coaches and black female dating coaches who deal primarily, if not exclusively, with the black community. I mean, more power to them. But that's never been my MO. That's never been my MO. No. Among other reasons, just purely, I can tell you right off the top of my head, I mentioned this before, just purely financial reasons. Shoot, I wouldn't be able to earn a living if that was my deal. I wouldn't be able to earn a living. Like, most of my high-paying clients and regular-paying clients are non-black men. They're not black men. Like, for example, when it comes to my Skype and telephone consultations, I would say only maybe 12 to 15% of my regular or semi-regular Skype and telephone consultation clients are black men. Yeah, I would say 15%, if I'm being generous, of my male clients who do Skype, regular or semi-regular Skype and telephone consultations with me are black men. Yeah, no less than 85% of my regular and semi-regular Skype and consultation clients are non-black men. Yeah, as I've mentioned before, if I had to rank most of my clients when it comes to a combination of one-on-one, face-to-face coaching sessions, which is my most expensive coaching, and my second most expensive is my Skype and telephone consultations, my highest percentage is white men, second highest is Asian men, third highest is Hispanic men, fourth highest is Middle Eastern men, and fifth highest is black men. Yeah, black men are that's my lowest percentage of clients as far as Skype and telephone consultations go, and as far as one-on-one face-to-face coaching sessions go. Now, I've done quite a few email consultations with brothers. Yeah, I've had a decent number of brothers who paid for email consultations. And I've had, based on feedback, I've had quite a few black men who have bought one or more of my ebooks, one or more of my paperbacks, or one or more of my audiobooks. So when it comes to purchasing my books and doing email consultations, I've had a significant percentage of black men who have supported me. But again, when it comes to Skype and telephone consultations and one-on-one face-to-face coaching, I've only worked with two black men over the last, I started doing one-on-one face-to-face coaching sessions in 2010. So 7 years. In the last 7 years, I've only worked with two black men for one-on-one face-to-face coaching sessions. Now, again, some of you I know are going to write in my comment section below, and I always invite feedback, public feedback below in my comment section. You can give me private feedback either through my Facebook inbox message or at coaching@mo1.net. Coaching@mo1.net. You know what? I had an interesting thing, speaking of my clients. I had a guy who lives in Singapore that cannot purchase my updated version of Mo1. That pisses me off. I wonder what Singapore got against United States book authors. Yeah, because he's a citizen of Singapore. He said he's not, his country prevents him from purchasing my ebook. What's up, Singapore? Y'all better get up with Mode 1. What's up? What's that about? I'm gonna have to talk to your government, man. I don't like that. That's some bullshit. Shoot, I've heard from quite a few people from Singapore, man. Y'all can't be cutting off my book. My second favorite flavor. Lemon squeezed. I told you this is best when you freeze it to the point where it's slushy and then you drink it. Ooh. That's when it's the shit. Excuse me. Okay, hopefully I'm going to keep this under an hour. Now, related to my article I wrote on the Negro Manosphere, that again references my beef, for lack of a more appropriate term to describe our differences, with the old man. I was listening to one of his recent podcasts because he finds a way to mention my name in like 3 out of every 5 podcasts he does. He just finds a way to mention my name. But one thing he said, and it's not the first time he said it, but for some reason I really paid attention to it this time. He did a podcast, matter of fact, the one that I featured in the article that I got posted, where he basically makes the argument that the vast majority of black women are unmarriageable, that they're not worth marrying. Now, as I always say, now he loves to concentrate on black women because that's all he's dealt with. But I've had white men who have said that they feel like a large number of white women are not marriageable in today's society. I've had Asian men say that about Asian women. I've had Hispanic men say that about Hispanic women. I've had Middle Eastern men say that about Middle Eastern women. See, because I've dealt with a lot of women of different races, and even just as much I've dealt with a lot of male clients of different races, I get to hear all the criticisms. And I know all the strengths and flaws of women. See, I've dealt with quite a few Caucasian women. I've dealt with, not a whole bunch of Asian, but quite a few, particularly when I lived in Los Angeles. Yeah, I dealt with at least a handful of Asian women. I've dealt with a number of Hispanic women. Middle Eastern, I don't think I've ever. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, one. Yeah, I dealt with at least one Middle Eastern woman. A woman of Middle Eastern descent. So, I've had my share of women. Particularly when it comes to casual sex, man. When it comes to casual sex, man, I like to always say, I think I've had casual sex with at least 1 or 2 women of literally every single race and ethnicity on planet Earth. There might be, if I was being nitpicky, 1 or 2 exceptions, but generally I've had casual sex with just about at least 1 or 2 women of every race and ethnicity on planet Earth. But anyway, going back to old man and his video podcast, he makes the argument that most black women in today's society are unmarriageable. And in his tirade about that, see, he has this thing where he calls himself the voice of the everyday brother, which I discuss in the article. And then he has another group of men who he calls the respectable brothers. Cracks me up. The respectable brothers. Burp number 1. He generally defines the respectable brothers as brothers who are usually reasonably handsome, come from a middle class or upper middle class family background, and are usually above average in physical attractiveness, physical appearance. Basically, me. I mean, being real. I mean, let's be real. He's talking about brothers like me, because I'm college educated. I come from a 2-parent middle class home, and most women have generally categorized me as a handsome brother. So he's talking about brothers like me when he says respectable brothers. Guys like Hill Harper, he refers to as a respectable brother. There's a couple other brothers. And so he made the argument in his video podcast that the respectable brothers need to speak up more about how foul black women's behavior is and how unmarriageable they are. They need to speak up. Think about that. Think about that. Think about that. Why does he want a brother like me to co-sign and speak out on the same criticisms of black women that he has? He knows the answer. I know the answer. But do you know the answer? I'm tempted to tell you the answer, but I would actually prefer that you post it in my comment section. Why does a guy who calls himself the voice of the everyday brother, who considers his voice, his commentary as being powerful, as being true and valid, and commentary that resonates with a good percentage of black men, why isn't he content with just other everyday brothers co-signing with his criticisms and general assessment of black women today? Why does he need the respectable brothers to co-sign with his criticisms and speak out on the same issues with black women that he has with black women? Why? Again, I know the answer. I know the answer. He knows the answer. Even though he didn't say it in his podcast, he knows the answer. But I'm asking you, as my listeners, and more specifically my black male listeners, but I invite even some of my non-black male listeners, since I brought you into this whole mess, I want you to post in my comment section why you feel like he needs the respectable brothers to be on his team. Speaking of that, I'm going to use that as a segue into another issue. Here's what cracks me up about brothers. And I ain't going to limit this to brothers. This is going to be about all men. This cracks me up about a lot of men. Because I know some Caucasian male MGTOW types who do this and other assorted types. Why do a lot of men who have major criticisms of women always try to recruit other men to share in those criticisms? Why? How come you can't just be content with your own issues with women? Why are you always trying to recruit other men to share your same criticisms and co-sign with your criticisms and think exactly the way you think? Why? And see, here's where I gotta pick on a guy who I consider a friend. We cool now, but even though we've fallen out 4 or 5 times, but I've picked on him before. Steely Dean Williams. If you remember, and I just mentioned this, I think, in my very last video. The first time me and Steely Dean Williams fell out on Blog Talk Radio, which ultimately led to me starting my own show, was because he tried to get me to co-sign with his assessment of black women, which was, at the time, this was 10 years ago, but yeah, on this Blog Talk Radio show, he made the strong statement that all black women are bitches. And then he said, "Ain't that right, Mode?" He used to call me Mode instead of Allen. He said, "Ain't that right, Mode?" Like, it's like he immediately expected me to co-sign with that shit. And I was like, hell no, I ain't co-signing with that shit. Are you crazy? I treated him like he was literally nuts. I was like, hell no, I don't think all black women are bitches. Are you serious? And then, of course, he started insulting me and shit and basically said, you know, if you ain't going to co-sign with me, then get your ass off my phone line then. Get your ass off my show. And I hung up. And yeah, we didn't speak for the next 6 months. So some of y'all guys in general, and I've dealt with it more, of course, since I'm black, I've dealt with it more with black men, but again, I know non-black men who do that. If they have criticism XYZ of women, they want you to agree with criticism XYZ of women. They want you to co-sign with criticism XYZ of women. But here's where I got to reference my boy Big Mike of Max City Limits. Max City Limits. Again, he summed it up the most simplest way when he said in one of his podcasts, some guys got it like that and some guys don't. Guys who got it like that are never going to co-sign with guys who don't get it like that. That's just the reality. And I don't understand why men don't get that. For example, if I'm a guy who gets women in bed fairly easily, and I'm talking to a group of men who always have a hard time getting women in bed, and I hear them whining and complaining about it, why would I be tempted to co-sign with them when I know good and well that I have an easy time getting women in bed? That wouldn't even make no sense on my part. I mean, seriously, that wouldn't make no sense on my part. If most of the women I deal with behave in a very feminine and submissive manner towards me, but I hear another group of men complaining about the fact that women are not feminine and they're hard to get along with and they're essentially bitches, why would I be tempted to co-sign with them when that's not been my experience? I mean, seriously, reality. Why would I be tempted to co-sign with them when that's not been my experience? And this relates to my video I did called Subjective Truth versus Objective Truth. Let's say every woman I've dealt with has always sucked my dick on command. And I hear a bunch of guys saying, man, women, they never suck your dick. You got to either spend money on them or you got to twist their arm in some kind of way to get them to suck your dick. Why would I co-sign with that if that hasn't been my experience when I'm always able to get women to suck my dick like that? By me talking about this, you should figure out the answer to the question that I posed to you. Think about the question I posed to you that I invited you to answer in my comment section. Think about what I'm talking about right now. It all makes sense. I mean, again, going specifically back to black women, I've mentioned on this show a number of times, man. Now, here's my thing, and I think every man would agree with this. If you're talking about a specific individual sister here, a specific individual sister there, you know, this individual woman here, this individual woman here, of course I've had my share of, you know, not so great interactions with women or not so great relationships with women. So if you want to highlight, if you're challenging me to talk about some individual, very specific individual bad experiences I've had with women in general, and particularly black women, then yeah, of course I can, hold on, my mouth feels dry. I think all men, white, black, Asian, Hispanic, whatever, even men who are super top-notch ladies, men, womanizer types, are going to be able to name at least a handful of women that they, I mean, look at Brad Pitt with Angelina Jolie. I mean, Brad Pitt could probably pull any bitch he wanted to. And he had some issues with Angelina Jolie. But do you think that would cause Brad Pitt to say that all women ain't shit? Or all white women ain't shit? Highly doubtful. Highly doubtful. Now, he might tell one of his close friends, Angelina Jolie ain't shit. But it's 99.99999% chance you ain't gonna never hear Brad Pitt come out and say all women ain't shit. As much pussy as that motherfucker has thrown his way. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm no Brad Pitt, but I mentioned on this very show that starting with the age of 17 and up through most of my life, most black women I've dealt with, man, have treated me like a king, man. And I'm just keeping shit real, man. Most black women I've dealt with have treated me like a king. I've had women give me money. Sometimes when I didn't even ask for it. I've had women let me use their cars if my car was in the shop. I've had women buy me clothes. I've had women pay for most of the dinners we've had together, lunches we had together. I've had women invite their girlfriends to have a threesome with me. I've had women, when I called them at 2 in the morning and told them to come over my place so I could fuck them, they was like, yes, sir. I mean, so why would I be bitching about sisters, man? Why would any black man expect me to get on my podcast and say something like Stevie D. Williams said, which was all black women are bitches, when that ain't been my experience? Or share with the old man his criticisms of women. I mean, I'm not going to co-sign with another black man simply because he's black. And see, that's what some brothers almost expect you to do. Either consciously or subconsciously, that's what they expect you to do. And again, going beyond black men, I would say some men, period. Some men think if they've had certain degree of disappointments and frustrations with a lot of women, it's like they naturally expect almost every man they interact with to have experienced those same disappointments and frustrations. And I'm here to say that a lot of you guys, whether you black, white, Asian, Hispanic, a lot of you guys have experienced shit with women on the negative tip that I've never experienced, man. Plain and simple. I've never experienced. I've experienced rejection before. That's the one thing I would say I can relate to almost every guy. I've experienced my share of rejection. I would say, I've said this on at least one previous podcast. Out of the 4 categories I talk about in one of my books, I list all relationships in 4 categories. Long-term monogamous, long-term non-monogamous, short-term monogamous, and short-term non-monogamous. If I was ranking those 4 from least problems I've had with women to most problems I've had with women, rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, starting with the least problems I've had with women to most problems I've had with women, here would be, and I feel like I did this at least in one previous video podcast. Starting with least problems. Short-term non-monogamous sex. That's the number one area I generally have my way with women. I mean, of course, I've had my percentage of rejections here and there, but overall, when it comes to short-term non-monogamous sex, I've generally had my way with women. In terms of both quality of women I fuck and quantity of women I fuck. So I don't really have any complaints when it comes to the pursuit of short-term non-monogamous sex. I've generally had my way, which is why, half the reason why I have the books that I wrote, like Mode 1 and Ooh Say It Again. I've generally had my way in that area. So short-term non-monogamous, that's where I've had the least problems with women. Second least most problems would be long-term non-monogamous. Just about all of my long-term non-monogamous relationships with women have been enjoyable and satisfying. I really, off the top of my head, I can't think of a woman who I had major issues with where I was involved in a long-term non-monogamous relationship with. Matter of fact, right now, I'm in 2 of those. That's the relationships I'm involved with. There's at least 2 women in my life right now that I'm involved in a long-term and ongoing non-monogamous sexual relationship with. So that's the second least area I've had the least problems. Third area would be short-term monogamous. Short-term monogamous. When I say short-term, everybody has their own definition. I generally define short-term as any relationship that lasts roughly 15 months or less. 15 months or less. Any relationship you have that lasts no more than roughly 15 months, I consider that a short-term relationship. If you have a relationship that lasts 18 months or longer, or at bare minimum, you strongly wanted it to last indefinitely, that would be a long-term relationship. Yeah, a long-term relationship is either a relationship that either did last long, or at minimum, you very much wanted it to and expected it to last long. That's a long-term relationship. Short-term relationship is a relationship you know is going to end at some point. Usually, like I said, 15 months or less. So anyway, short-term monogamous, yeah, I've had a mix. When it comes to short-term monogamous relationships, I probably had 2/3 good relationships, 1/3 bad relationships. Yeah, that's the category I would say. I've had probably 2/3 good relationships, 1/3 bad relationships. Usually the ones that went bad, it was because the woman who I was in a relationship wanted the relationship to be much longer, last much longer than what it did, and I didn't want it to. So that's the main issue I've had with my short-term monogamous. And then the category of the 4 that I would say I've had the most issues with women in my personal life is long-term monogamous. Long-term monogamous. Yeah, that's hands down. That's why none of my books center around offering men, even though I have in some of my email consultations and some of my Skype and telephone consultations, I actually have given men some degree of advice related to long-term monogamous relationships as well as marriages when they ask for it. Now, I let, my male clients know that's not my strongest area of credibility. Because number one, I've never been married. So when it comes to marriage advice, I would, by most people's assessment objectively, I would have questionable credibility in that area because I've never been married. But to toot my horn, I actually have given married people advice, both men and women, that have told me that my advice helped them. Matter of fact, I highlighted this once before in my early video podcast. I had a buddy in Chicago. He was married. Well, he still is married, but his relationship had reached a bump in the road, and he was actually headed towards separation. And we were talking on the phone one day, and he just off the cuff asked me some marriage-related advice, and I gave him some. And he ended up telling me a few weeks later that my advice that I gave him was 10 times better than the advice he got from a marriage therapist that he was paying $250 an hour for. How you like them apples? So I have given married men and married women advice. Now, most of the advice I usually give to couples, married and unmarried, is usually BDSM related advice and or polyamory related advice. BDSM related advice and or polyamory related advice. Speaking of when I mentioned long-term non-monogamy, that's basically what polyamory is. Polyamory, anytime you're involved in a long-term non-monogamous relationship, that means you're in a polyamorous relationship. So, so anyway, going back to my original point about my lack of desire to co-sign with other guys' harsh criticisms and whiny complaints about women's behavior, Again, plain and simply, man, I don't share the same complaints as most of these guys do. Like, if I had to highlight somebody specifically, the old man. The old man, he has a lot of criticisms that I just can't relate to. Honestly, I can't. I can't relate to. I tell you the actual criticisms of his that I can most relate to. And I feel like these are actually criticisms that he borrowed more so from me. And that's criticisms of women 40 years of age or older. Because, see, I used to go on his show and talk about some problems I have with women who are 40 years of age and older. And he has since then more or less borrowed a lot of my talking points. So I'm not going to say I agree with his criticisms when in reality, he borrowed those criticisms from me. Because I talk about that in the Beta Male Revolution. I criticize, and I mentioned that on the show a couple of times. If I rarely criticize women by race or ethnicity, but when it comes to generalizing women, I have been very guilty of criticizing women by age. So I've openly acknowledged that. I usually like to stay away from generalizations, but when I have gone into the area of offering generalized criticisms, it has usually been by age more so than race and ethnicity. And plain and simple, I'll tell you my simple criticism of a lot of older women. I feel like a lot of older women have unrealistic and even delusional type high standards. And it's the truth. I ain't going to say all middle-aged and older women do. But based on a lot of the women I've met since I turned 40, or women that other men have told me about, yeah, a lot of women, man, who are 40 years of age or older, man, y'all, again, not all of y'all, I don't even know if I want to say most of y'all, but a good number of you older women, as you get older as a woman, you have to adjust your standards and expectations accordingly. You do. I'll tell you at least one female celebrity, and I mentioned this before, who said that during an interview, is this woman named Kim Coles. She was used to star on In Living Single, and she spent at least 1 year on In Living Color, Keenan Ivory Wayans show. But she said that in a podcast interview, actually on Blog Talk Radio. She essentially said the same thing. And she's a woman, so I know I'm not just talking out my ass as a man. She's a woman, and she said that. She said, once you hit 40, you can't be thinking you're going to get the cream of the crop of men in society. You just can't. I'll tell you 2 or 3 reasons why. Number one, once you cross 40, if a man is looking for a wife, more than likely he's looking for a woman that's going to be able to give birth to 1 or more children. So just in terms of your biological clock, your stock value is going to be diminished once you hit 40. Number 2, just your overall physical appearance. Once you hit 40, physically you're going to start to look older and or fatter. And I'm not saying that to be mean-spirited, but that's just being real. Now, a lot of black women, to their credit, tend to hold their looks longer than, say, some non-black women. But even black women, I mean, once you cross 40, and definitely once you cross 45, you know, wrinkles going to start showing in your face. You're usually going to add on like 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 pounds of weight. You're just not going, in terms of pure physical appearance, a 45-year-old woman is not going to be able to compete with a 25 or even a 35-year-old woman. And finally, as far as older women looking for men who are like really wealthy, and this is one of the things that Kim Coles talked about. That was the main thing she talked about. She was basically like, you can't be a materialistic gold digger type woman once you get into your 40s and 50s. I mean, you're being delusional to think that you can. And I've literally met older women who will say things like, well, a guy got to be making at least 150, 200 grand a year for me to mess around with him. What motherfucker making 200 grand a year is trying to hook up with a chick that's 45 years old when he can easily, more than likely, pull a woman who's 25 or 35? I mean, come on, man. Some of y'all women being delusional. So anyway, that's one area where the old men are actually similar. And again, I feel like he borrowed a lot of my talking points to do with this issue. But yeah, when it comes to criticize women by age rather than race, there's a lot of criticisms we both have that are on the same page. But when it comes to criticizing women by race, nah, he and I are worlds apart. He and I are nowhere near on the same page. And like I said the same thing about... Now, Stevie Dean Williams has improved over the last 10 years, at least publicly he has. But I feel the same way about Stevie Dean, man. I ain't never been a brother who bashes sisters, man. Because sisters have done right by me, man. Most of them have treated me like a king, man. Whether it be a long-term relationship, short-term relationship, monogamous or non-monogamous. Sisters have treated me like a king, man. I mean, again, I've had a few issues with specific individual sisters here and there, but all men do that. So to wrap up, I'm going to tell you what I feel are the three major reasons a lot of women, regardless of race, tend to exhibit foul behavior towards men. Alan Roger Currie's 3 major reasons why women exhibit foul behavior. And at least one of these you can correct through my Mode 1 books and my coaching and consultation. One of these, the very first one, you can, as a man, contribute to correcting. The other 2 are pretty much out of your hands. Okay. I'll start with, instead of starting with number 1 and going down to number 3, I'm going to start with number 3 and move up to number 1. The number 3 major reason why a lot of women exhibit foul behavior towards men, behavior that most men would generally consider unpleasant, hard to get along with. Number 3 reason is that the woman is not that attractive, or she's significantly overweight, which translates into she either hasn't had any good dick in a long time, or she's only had good dick sporadically. It's a known fact, and this is similar to men. Men and women are similar in this regard. If a woman ain't had good sex in a long time, or she only gets it erratically, man, she's gonna tend to act like a bitch. I know that for 100% fact. Women act like bitches when they ain't getting regular dick, regular or semi-regular dick. When women are either not getting dick at all or they only getting occasional dick, that's when 9 times out of 10 a woman's gonna act like a bitch. Women admit that themselves. So I would almost dare any woman. Matter of fact, if you go back to one of my erotic conversationalist interviews, I interviewed this woman named Kendall Williams. A white woman named Kendall Williams. She's into tantric sex. She's like a tantric sex consultant. We had actually a really hot interview. It was really hot. A lot of women played with their pussies listening to that interview. And I'm sure a lot of guys jacked off listening to that interview. It was a hot interview. All my erotic conversationalist interviews are pretty hot. But the theme of the interview was the underfucked pussy. The underfucked pussy. And that was a lot of what Kendall Williams talked about in that interview. She basically said, if a woman ain't getting regular, semi-regular dick, she's gonna be grouchy, she's gonna be irritable, and essentially she's gonna be a bitch. Women who are attractive, sexy, and can generally easily get good dick, they're not going to act like a bitch towards the men who are giving them good dick. I can guarantee you that. They ain't going to act like a bitch towards the men who are giving them good dick. They might act like a bitch towards the men who they're not interested in, but towards the men who are giving them the good dick, they ain't gonna act like no bitch towards them. Well, I would say that even about the unattractive women or the fat women. If you're a guy that's willing to give them some good dick, they ain't gonna act like a bitch towards you then. So that's my number 3 reason why women will exhibit foul behavior, unpleasant behavior. Because they ain't getting enough good dick. Period. Number 2 reason why women will usually exhibit foul behavior towards men. Behavior that most men would be the most likely to complain about and criticize them for. Is if they did not grow up with a strong male figure in their household. They did not have a strong, dominant, masculine father, a strong, dominant, masculine stepfather, a strong, masculine, dominant uncle, strong, dominant, masculine grandfather. If they didn't have any type of strong, dominant, masculine figure in their home from the time they were little to the time they became a late teenager, they don't know what it means to respect men. They don't know what that means. That's a foreign concept to them. Usually most of their mothers are going to be the type of mothers that's going to tell them that all men ain't shit. And yes, that probably happens a little bit more in the black community than the non-black community, but I know some white women that were raised exclusively by their moms. So yeah, if a woman grew up with nothing but a mother and other females in the household, and she didn't have any type of strong, masculine, dominant type male figure in the home, she don't know what it means to respect a man until she comes across a BDSM dominant like myself who trains women for a living. I'm getting ready to do a couple of those this week, matter of fact. Training sessions with women, female clients. Ladies, go to mode1.net/training. I think my link is below in the description section, but I'm not sure. mode1.net/training. I actually train women who have a lot of issues respecting men and being ultra feminine and being more submissive to men. I train women. Women pay me to train them. So that's number 2. That's number 2. Women they never grew up with a strong male figure in their life. Number 1. Now those 2, I don't know how much you can do with those 2 women. The women in category number 3, you can give them some good dick. But more than likely, you're going to feel like they're not attractive enough for you, or they too fat or obese for you. So, your choice. The women in number 2, there's only so much you can do with those women. Like I said, the way I contribute to changing those women is my role as a BDSM professional dominant servant. But here's the number 1 area that you would have the most control. Here's the number 1 reason why a lot of women exhibit behavior that's spoiled, disrespectful, and just foul and undesirable in general towards men. The number 1 reason. Because you motherfuckers are weak. Period. Because you motherfuckers are weak. That's why I wrote that article on the Negro Manosphere. I think I might post that article too in the comment section below about my article about men being thirsty. A lot of you men out here, man, now some of you are consciously aware of the fact that you're weak. Matter of fact, a lot of percentage of those guys tend to come to me as male clients. And I'm appreciative of that. And I look to help you, and I have helped a lot of men. But there's some men who are in denial about this. And a lot of these whiny, complaining types are some of the men who are in denial about this. A lot of you men are fucking weak, man. You're fucking weak. You let women step all over you, and then weeks, months, or years after they have stepped over you, you want to get on YouTube and complain that those women were bitches. That's after the fact, man. See, that's what Mode 4 guys do. They let women get away with spoiled and disrespectful behavior, thinking they're going to endear themselves to those women. But then when it doesn't end up working out that way, then later on, they want to go on a blog article or come on YouTube or Blog Talk Radio and whine and bitch about women's behavior. No, motherfucker, the starting point is you a fucking weak-ass motherfucker, man. You a weak, no backbone, thirsty-ass motherfucker. That's the number one thing that causes women to exhibit fucked up behavior. Oh, you weak man. There's been articles written about it, not even necessarily by me, but by other people in society, both male and female. My own father said that, I remember. I remember when I was living in Los Angeles, man. My father sent me this article. I think it was in a New Yorker magazine. Where this sister, it was written by a sister. It was an article in a New Yorker magazine where this sister was basically saying that compared to her father and grandfather, I was just talking about men being a strong, dominant, masculine type man. She was saying that compared to her father and grandfather, she felt like most black men in society today, and this was in the 1990s, she said she felt like they were weak. They were pushovers. They were very easy to control, influence, and dominate. That's what it means to be weak. Weak is any time you exhibit behavior that's very easy for a woman to control, influence, manipulate, and dominate. Control, influence, manipulate, and dominate. Anytime your behavior falls into one or more of those categories, that means you're weak. It means you're weak. Like, again, if you're a guy who regularly or semi-regularly allows women to get away with spoiled behavior, you're weak. If you're a man who allows women to blatantly disrespect you and talk to you like a chump or like you're their bitch, you're weak. If you're a guy that's always offering to spend money on women, always offering to pay for women's vacation trips, always offering to buy women clothes, always offering to pay for expensive meals for women, you basically spoil women financially and materialistically, you're weak. If you're always acting thirsty, oh baby, damn you so fine, damn you so beautiful, please hook up with me, please, god damn you so beautiful and sexy, please. Just let me drink your bath water. Just let me just smell your pussy. I don't even have to touch it. Just let me smell your pussy. You're weak. You're weak. And y'all wonder why there's so many fucked up women here in today's dating scene. Because there's so many weak motherfuckers. That bothers me 10 times more than any aspect of women's behavior. Is all you weak ass thirsty motherfuckers. Believe that shit. Y'all piss me off way more than anything about a woman's behavior pisses me off. Is you weak ass motherfucker. You guys are weak. Not all of you all, but you, the ones who are guilty of it, they know who I'm talking to. A lot of you guys are weak, man. You're fucking weak. You let women just run all over you. And then you exhibit what I refer to, what most psychologists refer to as passive-aggressive behavior. That's what you do. That's what it means to be passive-aggressive. When you're passive-aggressive, what that means is anytime you're a person that when you deal with somebody, either somebody of the opposite sex or somebody even within your same gender, and initially you exhibit a lot of behavior that's very pleasant, accommodating, and lenient. Pleasant, accommodating, and lenient. But then, once that person ends up manipulating the shit out of you and leaving your ego bruised and your feelings hurt and just dog you out and just say, use you for your finances and your materialistic gifts, and you develop this bitterness and this resentment and this frustration, and then all of a sudden you lash out at that same person, and then all of a sudden you angry at that person, you got harsh criticisms of that person, personal insults of that person. That's what's called passive-aggressive behavior. That's passive-aggressive, man. To a certain extent, that's what the old man has been exhibiting towards me. That's exactly what he's been exhibiting towards me. Is passive-aggressive behavior. For about 2 years, motherfucker treated me like I was his idol. Like I was his podcasting idol and his book writing idol. For like just about 2 years, that's how he treated me. And then because I parted ways with him, now he damn near treats me like I'm his worst enemy. That's passive-aggressive, man. That's passive-aggressive. That's what a lot of you guys do with women, man. You passive-aggressive, man. That comes from being weak, man. You weak. I'm going to tell you something, and this is where I'm going to end. You're better off not interacting with women at all. You're better off going MGTOW. Dare I say that? You're better off going your own way and indefinitely ignoring women than to interact with women and become their passive-aggressive beta bitch boy. You're better just not interacting with women at all. Seriously, I'm not even joking. You are better off not interacting with women for the rest of your life, just becoming a voluntary monk, than allow yourself to become a woman's passive-aggressive beta bitch boy. You don't ever want to allow yourself to become passive and aggressive with women, where again, you initially start off being very pleasant, fawning, accommodating, lenient, financially and materialistically generous. And then once those women exploit the shit out of you and fuck around on you and cheat on you with your best friend or your coworker or your boss, and now you get burp number 2. Burp number 3. Now you get pissed and you want to call that woman all kinds of bitches and she ain't shit. She's now the scum of the earth. You wasn't saying that shit when you was playing up to her ego. When you was buying her all types of materialistic gifts and spending money on her left and right. You wasn't saying that shit. You wasn't calling her a bitch then. When she called you to help you, called you to help her move from one apartment to another apartment or from one house to another house, you wasn't calling her a bitch then while you was helping her move her boxes. When you was paying for her vacations with her girlfriends that you wasn't even included on, you wasn't calling her a bitch. But now all of a sudden she a bitch. After she dogs you out, she's a bitch. Man, come on, man. Wake the fuck up. Wake the fuck up. That's the number one reason why you have so many fucked up women. The women who are fucked up. Now, I believe there's still a high percentage of quality women in society. I really do. White, black, Asian, Hispanic, Middle Eastern, whatever. But there's also a percentage of women that are fucked up. And again, I would say no less than 1/3 of the reason why you have a lot of fucked up women. And I would say, bringing it home specifically to the black community, why you got a lot of fucked up black women, is those 3 reasons I listed. You got a lot of weak black men, weak, thirsty, overly financially generous black men. That's one thing no man who's interacted with me in real life and observed me interacting with women can ever say about me. I ain't never been no motherfucking man that tries to get women in bed by buying them shit. By like spending a bunch of money on them and shit. I ain't never been no motherfucker like that. And I've still gotten quality pussy. Still gotten large quantities of pussy. I ain't never been no whiner and diner, no sugar daddy type motherfucker with women. Ever. If I can't get women in bed by a combination of my looks, my confidence, and my overall verbal communication skills and seductive charm, then my attitude is fuck it. It wasn't meant for me to fuck that woman. Period. But I ain't gonna be buying no woman no Jaguar to get her in bed, to motivate her to sleep with me. I ain't gonna be paying a woman's car note or no woman's rent or mortgage to motivate her to have sex with me. But you weak, thirsty motherfuckers do that shit. You weak, thirsty motherfuckers. Like when I interviewed that chick, Beige Fletcher, she was talking about how brothers was treating her to shopping sprees who hadn't even tongue kissed her yet. Man, if you had a gun to my head, I would never do no shit like that. Ever. I would never do no shit like that. I would never treat no woman to a shopping spree that wasn't my wife or at minimum my long-term girlfriend. I would never do no shit like that. What's wrong with some of you guys doing shit like that? Seriously. And you just excessively compliment women. I mentioned this in my Thirsty article. I see guys on Facebook do that all the time. Y'all be just jocking women. Repeatedly telling women how beautiful they are, how sexy they are. Oh my God, you so fine. Oh my God, you so sexy. What the fuck, man? And y'all wonder why women are fucked up. Y'all exhibit all this weak, thirsty, excessively and overly financially generous behavior, and then you wonder why women are fucked up. Because you the problem. Because you part of the problem. Hashtag indulge in self-examination. Hashtag indulge in self-examination. My next video will probably be on Wednesday, and that will be for my Patreon subscribers only, either $5, $10, I haven't decided yet, but it will be on Wednesday. Wednesday, I will do a Patreon exclusive video. All right, check out all my relevant articles below and my important and relevant links in the description section. Mo one, baby. Make shit happen. Peace.
Yes, sir.
Say it again.
Yes, sir.
Who's the king?
Alan, you're the king.
Say it again.
Alan, you're the king. You're dominating me.
Say it again.
Alan, you're dominating me right now. Mode 1.
Mode 1.
Daddy, can I go, please? You're the king.
Say it again.
Oh, you're the fucking king. Yes. Yes. Yes.
You're the king, Alan.
AKA the king of verbal seduction. You know, it's the tone of your voice, how seductive your intonations are, the vibrations that you could just reach out over the phone lines and stroke a woman's breast just by the sound of your voice, how you could make her pussy so wet just by the sound of your voice. That's actually very hot.
So you said my show was what?
I said your show is powerful.
Oh, say it again.
Your show is powerful.
I bet the king would fuck me really good.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie. The king.
The king.
The king.